Everton 0, Arsenal 1. Yes, people. Wife boy, welcome back to another tactical analysis with my man Rami from the Stats Optic. Today it's match day 5 of the Premier League, and we're analysing Everton 0, Arsenal 1. How you doing, Rami?
I'm good. Happy to be back on another win.
And
We say it every week. Back with another win.
Apart from the Fulham game, we've been back with another win, and the Man United one was a really good one to analyse. And this one as well, I think, was a really good game to analyse as well, because it's very much a tactical, grueling battle from Arsenal. This wasn't free-flowing football by any stretch of the imagination. It was very much a dog versus dog grind-out victory. So let's start, of course, with the match report, as we always do. So look through the stats here. Arsenal, by far, were the better team. I think the eye test will tell you that, alongside the stats as well. 13 shots, 7 from open play. 4 step pieces as well. We took advantage of our corners and nearly tripled the passes that Everton had. What do you make from the stats here, Rami?
Again, it just shows a bit more dominance. I think we're taking shots. Okay, shots from open play, I think we need to improve. We're lacking that bit more, cutting edge, I think. I think from, positions. But again, it's a tough opponent that we're facing. We're facing someone that, a team that is notorious for just sitting back, no block, 5 man at the back, 4 in front. And, when they're trying to build out, they're building out in a 4-4-2. So it's no-nonsense football. And I think, the stats show what the stats show. It was complete dominance. Everton struggled to get out their own half, really. And I don't think they even registered a proper shot on target.
Yeah, no, 100% agree with you. I think in their first 3 home games this season, Everton have lost all of them 1-0. And it tells you all you need to know about Sean Dyche. This man isn't going to come here to play free-flowing football, come here to entertain the crowds and go for 2-2s and 3-2s like Bielsa was doing with Leeds. He's come here to grind out results, and that means a lot of games will be low scoring. And the thing is, when you're not getting results early, which is what Everton are doing, they're not getting results at all, the fans are going to turn very quickly. So they need to get some points from somewhere, to be honest. But for me, I just wanted the result. As well as me, the record's been horrendous at Goodison Park, horrendous in Liverpool, full stop, to be honest. So if I were able to grind out a result, I mean, we were messaging throughout the game. I said at halftime, this just reeks of a set-piece winner for Everton in like the 70th minute or something, because just the way I've got scars from last year. Were you confident even at halftime that we were going to go on to win this game?
I mean, what I said at halftime was we needed to get out the blocks quite quick. I said that if we get out and we just get at them, and that's what we did. I think as soon as we got out, Fabio Vieira played that square ball across the box, and Nketiah should have been in a position to finish. But I worried as the time went on. It hit 60th minute, I think it's 70th, and I was a bit like, okay, we need more, more options going forward. We needed more rotation from Nketiah. We needed someone to be more, up against it. But with these games, you want to see it out as quick as you can.
Yeah.
But each game is its own story.
Exactly. So if you look at the attacks from Arsenal, I remember during the Manchester United game, it was very much down the middle with a lot of the attacks. This time, it looks as though we've gone for the wings more. This makes sense because whenever you're playing teams like Everton, teams that play in a low block, as you were saying, Rami, they very much like to be compact. They defend the middle a lot and they give you space out wide because their mentality is that you can't hurt us as much from out wide as you can through the middle. And I think we took advantage of that. I think we saw the combinations with Ødegaard, Saka, and of course Ben White. But also Fabio Vieira coming to the team, which I was calling for, by the way. I was calling for Havertz to be dropped for Vieira. He was doing really well as well, linking up with Martin, and of course when he came off injured, Trossard as well, alongside Zinchenko down there. So what did you see from this as well, from the stats here?
I mean, we can just tell. I think we were very, I would say, heavily right-sided attack, but I think Everton pushed us to go that way. We saw like Idrissa Gana Gueye literally man-marking Ødegaard. Anywhere Ødegaard would go, I saw Idrissa Gana Gueye following him. It's a tough midfield to get by. So when they compact that midfield out, they want you to go against the wings. And what we saw was almost like 3v2s on the wing with like Mikalenko and Tavaski, like just staying really tight. There wasn't a lot of spaces to operate in. So you really have to stretch the play and you have to play with tempo. The faster you play, the more likely you are to exploit a bit of space. And that's what I think what worried me about the first half was Gabriel felt like he didn't play the ball quicker enough to Zinchenko, but we started off quick. But I felt like we could have been quicker out of the blocks. But yeah, I felt, the wings, we had to use them. And aside, I mean, we'll see in the game analysis, we'll see that, we have to play quick in between the lines, and that's when we can exploit with Martinelli and his disallowed goal.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. The point you made about Gana Gueye marking Odegaard's a good point as well, because during that game, I did feel like Odegaard was a little bit quiet. I wouldn't say he was nullified at all, but he was a little bit quiet. And I think Everton was setting up in anticipation of Havertz playing alongside Odegaard. And they were thinking, you know what? If we have to pick our poison, we'll mark Odegaard down to the ground and we'll let Havertz do his thing. And I think they afforded Fabio Vieira too much space. Fabio Vieira was involved throughout the game. I thought he had a really influential match. Obviously, he got the assist for the Martinelli disallowed goal, a beautiful pass through there. And he was playing those passes, right, penetrating right through the lines between the centre-back and full-backs for Everton. So I felt that it was a real good decision by Arteta to play Fabio Vieira, because it was a case where they were marking Odegaard, but Fabio Vieira's end product, for me, at times can even be better than Odegaard's. I don't think he's as influential in the whole match. But if you're looking for a final ball, Fabio Vieira he's the king of that. I think he got like double-digit assists when he was at Porto, right, the season before we signed him.
Yeah, he's great. He's probably one of our best. I said it last time I was on. One of the most influential final third players that we have in the team.
100%. And if we look at the heat map, as they call it here, right, for Arsenal. Now, after watching this match, and obviously I watched the Sky Sports analysis, watched Match of the Day, it dawned on me that this game was very, very reminiscent to Arsenal against Leicester last season, which also finished 1-0, in the sense where it was complete domination. The scoreline might not suggest it, but if you watch the 2.5-minute highlights or 3-minute highlights on YouTube, you might think it was a bit more even. But this game was a complete domination by Arsenal. Everton had absolutely nothing. David Raya came in I think he made one save all game, and if that, it was a 30-yard shot. And this as well shows that we were being very dominating in terms of having the ball in the defensive side on our left-hand side, but getting the ball quickly over to the right-hand side in the offensive areas.
Yeah, I mean, we recycled play really well, and I think this is what shows it. If you can see that both sides are quite evenly spread in its own way. We wanted to penetrate 1v1s of Saka's ability, especially when Martinelli came off. You know, you'd favour a Saka 1v1 more than you maybe might favour a Trossard 1v1. But the ability to just recycle play, I think we kept seeing the sequences of Gabriel into Saliba into Declan Rice, and Declan Rice straight diagonal into Saka. And then Saka would do his 1v1 link-up. I think we kept seeing that quite a lot, especially in the first half. So I think it's no surprise the way we see the heat maps from now on, or from last week even, that we'll see quite a lot of concentration on both wings, because we want to exploit this is our quality. That's where our quality comes from. But I do feel like when Jesus starts to feature more regularly, we might see it a bit more evenly across the front three, because his ability to come in and, help play out on the wings, he's very, selfless as a player. And I think what we lacked with Nketiah was in this game was his ability to move more into the wings. He was very, in central areas. Maybe it's an instruction, who knows? But I felt like his movements were a bit more restricted than could have been.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I was actually very surprised that Jesus didn't start this game, given he came off the bench against Fulham, and of course against United, and scored there as well. And Nketiah was, let's be honest, a little bit non-existent there. I think he had the fewest touches when Sky Sports showed the graphic. I would have wanted Jesus to start as well. Another interesting point is, which we are going to talk about in the next slide, the one after this one, is to talk about the positions of the players. But first, if we look at the XG here, Arsenal 1.02, Everton 0.34. So from this, you're not looking at it and thinking, Arsenal blew them apart by any stretch of imagination. Although I would say we were dominating. We weren't really peppering Everton's goal, but we were getting in really good areas. And I think this just goes to show again Sean Dyche's teams, right? They will lose matches, but if they do lose matches, they won't lose 4-5, 6-0. It will be the tight score lines where you sit there thinking, Everton had a good chance here, could have nicked something from the game. But if you actually watch the whole match and view the complexion of it, they were never really in the contest, to be honest.
I agree, yeah. And I think what we lacked was a final product a bit more. I think we saw numerous chances where the ball just played across the box, and we just lacked someone just to be at the end of the ball, at the end of the ball. So, yeah, I mean, the XG doesn't really reflect how the game really, really went, I think, in this chance. But it also shows us that, chances are hard to get when you play a team like Everton. And we took the chance that we had, so...
Yeah, and another interesting point actually is so the Arsenal shot charts on the left in blue, right? A lot of the shots have come diagonally rather than from the center, which I mean, I'm no football connoisseur to know whether you have a higher XG shooting from angles or down the center. But I'd hazard to guess that shooting in the middle of the goal would have a higher XG, given you can go in both corners. Whereas when you shoot from the sides diagonally, the keeper's got a much better chance of saving it if it's a near post shot, and to get it far post, you have to damn near be almost perfect shooting. So maybe that's something that Everton, obviously, we showed their heat maps and their attacks and everything, how we were attacking down the wings, and Everton were restricting the center a lot. So maybe that was probably why our XG was lower, given that despite the fact we had shots, that we weren't shooting in the center of the pitch and center of the penalty box. It was more on the corners.
I mean, yeah, I think, of course, that's a factor. It's one of the biggest factors. I mean, when it comes to XG and how it's calculated, is the more concentrated you are in the center, the higher the chances are. But again, we also have to think about there's loads of other factors that go in, like the body shape. Body shape is a big factor that comes in. If the ball is received wrong, even though you could be in the center and you're backsided, or you're at an angle that doesn't favor you, you have a couple guys in front of you that are blocking your chance, that actually does get lowered at a point, because the chance for you to angle the ball into the goal is lower at that point, because it's a restricted space. So yeah, again, it does reflect and it doesn't at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, when we reviewed the game a couple of weeks ago for the international break between Arsenal and Manchester United, Declan Rice's goal had a 0.052 XG.
Exactly.
So I think the XG can have all this importance and everything, but we saw Haaland miss a couple point blank shots against West Ham. That would add a 0.8, 0.9 XG, and Declan Rice scored with 0.052. And I'd hazard to guess that Trossard's goal weren't above a 0.1 either, to be fair, because that was a tough strike as well on his weak foot.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's okay. So this is very similar to what we were looking at before. So you've written here that despite the lack of spaces, Arsenal managed to create a better set of chances, more valuable on the left-hand side. And our first goal, which obviously got disallowed by VAR, came from the left-hand side of the Martinelli strike. And one thing that I noticed very much was that when Trossard came on the pitch especially, it got to a point where we were trying to attack down the wings, but a lot of our players wanted to cut in. What I mean by that is, of course, Declan Rice is Declan Rice. He's going to be down the center of the pitch, controlling the middle. You've then got Vieira and Ødegaard, who are in that half space, but are very much in the center third of the pitch, drifting out to right and left. Saka and both Trossard are cut-in wingers. When I see Martinelli, he's more of a stay on the touchline. The way Saka does this as well. Martinelli, stay on the touchline and just get in behind and just attack, head down and run. Whereas Saka's someone likes to be a bit more tricky, be a bit more agile and drift inside and link up, go inside, and Ben White overlap him. So when we had Trossard on the pitch and Saka on the pitch as well, it felt like everyone was going in. Everyone's first thought was, let's try and go in, and that's really interesting point.
Yeah, I think what the funniest thing about you saying that is, as soon as the half started, and I refer back to the chance that we had, the couple chances that we had at the start of the second half. Even Gary Neville picked up on this. We saw Zinchenko on the first play an overlapping run.
Yes,
we didn't see him come inverted. And I think that was because exactly what you have said, that both our wingers here now enjoy cutting in and using their right foot and using the spaces. But when the spaces are restricted and you have Zinchenko wanting to play in the inverted, Fabio Vieira wanting to play in the inverted. So what we end up seeing was Fabio Vieira at times in the second half touching the byline where Martinelli would come, when he would see that Trossard wanted to come inwards and receive the ball in the half space at that point. So it's very interesting dynamic that happened, and I think it was good that Fabio Vieira is able to pick up this understanding of when Trossard wants to come into that space, I'm going to go out wide. And I think that's maybe something that we could improve on the right hand side. Maybe it was just the opposition in this game.
Yeah, no, 100% agree with that one. And then now let's move on to the average positions, because we've spoken about this at length, and it's normally Declan Rice right in the middle of the pitch. It wasn't quite that today. But he was still very influential. I thought Declan Rice especially. One thing I really liked about Arsenal yesterday when I was watching the game against Everton, I'm sure you'll pick up on the same thing as me, is not just the fact that we had the majority of possession and we're having free-flowing chances and really attacking them. It was the fact we won the ball back so quick. Now, that was in part due to the fact that Everton were poor, I believe, on the football. That if you want to play a low block, you have to retain the possession when you're leaving your box. Not only to create chances, but just to relieve your defense from some pressure, if anything. I feel like they were really poor of it. But there's a few clips I've seen where, whether it was Ben White, whether it was Declan Rice, just snuffing out danger, surrounding players and winning that ball back quickly. So I really enjoyed that, especially. And then, as you mentioned before, look at that five across. You look at Saka, you look at Fabio Vieira, Martinelli, who of course was replaced by Trossard fairly early, and then Nketiah and Ødegaard basically holding hands there in the middle third of the pitch, heading into the final third. Really interesting stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I think what made me laugh was more when I saw this image was the Everton. How compact all of their midfield is right now in the middle of the park. I mean, they had no chance really to get out of out of their own half, and they lacked the ability, to just link play when they got out. And any chance they had, it was broken down, by either Ben White or Declan Rice coming in and just, breaking up the lines. I think he did that really well. Remember the chance that Beto had and Saliba just watched him down the line. It reminded me of when Zaha last season, we saw that with Crystal Palace, and he just, he just watched him. He just watched him. We all knew as soon as that 1v1 was there, we just knew what was going to happen. So, yeah, it's interesting. You can see that even the dynamic as well when Martinelli was on the pitch, that Martinelli, Fabio Vieira at 35, and Zinchenko, that three, how tightly they are. Maybe we should have wanted that more with Ødegaard being a bit closer to Saka. Maybe that might have helped Saka a bit more. But, I mean, it helped in our goals. So.
Yeah. I mean, I'm someone that puts a lot of emphasis on the midfield battle, right? And if you're going into this game, and if you didn't know the position of Arsenal and Everton in the table, but if I showed you the three midfield partnerships of Doucouré, Onana, and Gana Gueye versus Declan Rice, Vieira, and Ødegaard, you'd think that the Everton midfield would eat that Arsenal midfield alive. I mean, when you just have to look at February in Sean Dyche's first game, where Everton played that same midfield and were hungry, tenacious, attacking Arsenal. Whereas yesterday, they felt a bit passive, that they didn't want to, they were sitting off us too much. And you're sitting there and you're thinking Arsenal won that battle. Now, that's massively credit to Declan Rice there, because I thought he was an absolute monster in there. But also massive credit to Vieira and Ødegaard as well, because they took the passion, took the crowd, took the bite out of the game, took the electricity out of it, and they made it into a football match. Whereas we knew Everton were coming here, just like they were doing it in February, to make it into a dogfight, make it into a grueling battle.
It's true. Yeah, great point, yeah.
Okay, so let's get into some of the gameplay features. So this was the disallowed goal. It, of course, came from a Gabriel lateral pass that got deflected by Beto. Now, the rule is PGMOL have come out and said that because it was not under control and a deflection, it is offside. Now, the Nketiah coming from an offside position, many Arsenal fans have debated that, the lines drawn, etc. I'm not going to debate the lines drawn, because if that's the case, I could debate the Garnacho one a few weeks ago as well. I'm just going to put faith that hopefully the lines were drawn correctly. I still think that the rule is a little bit suspect about the in control, not in control, given that it's not like Gabriel intended to pass the ball to Nketiah. He tried to pass the ball sideways, and Beto was the one that influenced the ball 100% in it going to Nketiah. That wasn't intended by Gabriel. So for me, that's a law change rather than a real VAR or refereeing change more than anything. But either way, the ball then fell to Vieira, and as I spoke about, Ødegaard being not nullified, but very quiet this game, Vieira was picking up the slack and played a beautiful, incisive pass to Martinelli. So first, Rami, what did you think about the disallowed goal? Did you think that it was rightly disallowed? A, are you a fan of the rule? And B, also, what did you make of the Vieira pass, and secondly, the Martinelli run?
Yeah, I mean, the rules are the rules. Unfortunately, I've just never seen that rule being put in place. It's something that, I can't tell you the last time I've seen something like that scenario ever happen. So I can't exactly tell you that I've known this rule. But I know that if it's a deflection and it goes to the player, it's okay. But, I'm not someone that, reads the FA rules whenever they want to update it. But I think what is more positive, and I would take a better positive out of this, is Fabio Vieira's ability to just pick out Martinelli, and it was pinpoint. I think that's what I felt more encouraged about. I think Martinelli kept his width, so it kept the space in between Ashley Young, and I think that's Tarkowski as well. So it allowed Vieira to just see the space, and he literally moved Nketiah out the way. And when I was watching the clip, I had to click my spacebar every time, because I wanted to get that instant as soon as Fabio Vieira picked the ball up. But he played it really well. And again, Martinelli's ability in those scenarios, you can bank on him. Gary Neville said Thierry Henry putting it in the side netting. So great finish, great pass. I think it's encouraging. Hopefully Martinelli's back soon, because I want to see this link up more.
100%. And Vieira and Martinelli are boys anyway behind the scenes. They're always appearing next to each other in photos, walking with each other. So that synergy is off the pitch just as much as it is on the pitch. I was actually really excited when I saw this goal as well, because it was very reminiscent for me of this Liverpool team under Jurgen Klopp in the 2018-19, that type of era, where Mane would score these type of goals, where the game's not really, Arsenal attacking, but the game's not really going anywhere. A little mistake, and then literally in a flash of eye, 5 seconds later, the ball's in the back of the net, and you're sitting there thinking, where'd that come from? And I like when we have that type of blitz mentality to us, where we can do things like that. And to have that, you need two components. You need what Vieira brought, which was a killer pass and spotting the pass, and then also Martinelli having the pace and the composure to put the ball in the back of the net as well. So this is some more of the attack. So look, as you see here, I remember this chance exactly. This was when, if I'm not mistaken, the Ben White shot when Pickford saved it, right? Again, linking up Saka, Odegaard, Ben White, but also Declan Rice's position here. He was very much in that right hand side, that slash right back position. Saka was coming forward. Was this something that was a feature throughout the whole match?
Yeah, I think what we saw, I think again in the average positions, we saw that the Rice was a bit more to the right hand side than he was to the left, because obviously the spaces allowed him to be there. And I just really saw like the dynamic here is developing a bit better. It was funny, last season we saw the Saka, Odegaard, White as like the combination that takes us forward. So it's encouraging that we have a bit more balance now on both wings. So I just think it's just a moment of great skill. Look, Odegaard's able to have 3 men around him, and he's picking out. He already knows what the space is, where the space is, and what run Ben White wants to make. Of course, a better finish is needed, but hopefully we want to see more off the ball movements like this. This is probably the best way to break down, a low block is intricate play.
100%. And here the Declan Rice composure. So this was the chance you're talking about, right? At the start of the second half, when we came flying out the traps. Just before this, there was a chance when Saka we played some really nice pass. I believe it was Zinchenko over the top. It might have been. And Vieira squared it. No one was there. At that point, I was shouting for him to pull it back to Odegaard. Instead, he played across the box again, saying, that got cut out. This one right here, the way this was formulated, Declan Rice played that ball into Odegaard, and Odegaard touched it past the defender and struck it. I was just waiting for the net to bulge, because I've seen Odegaard score so many of those type of goals. But this was a really positive sign, and Declan Rice appearing those half spaces again. There's a similar chance this we reviewed, I remember, against Crystal Palace, where he played for Nketiah and lobbed the goalkeeper and missed it. So Declan Rice is appearing in these areas, and he's got the presence of mind to find the pass as well. It's really encouraging signs.
Yeah, I think it's intelligence of when to go forward and when to stay back. So assessing when is the right time. And he saw the space, and Odegaard again, just great composure to just take the touch. The defender is expecting him to go on the outside, but he takes him on the inside. And an Odegaard that's maybe already scored in the first half or an assisted in the first half with a bit more confidence wouldn't strike it straight at the keeper. He would side net it, but it's good. It's good signs, and I think signs like this build fluidity, and later down the season, it's key.
100%. And it was really interesting because Declan Rice, I remember after the Manchester United game, he was interviewed on Sky Sports, and I believe it was Michael Richards that asked him, do you prefer playing the number 6 or number 8? And he said that he does prefer the number 6, but Arteta's training him for the number 8. Now, when I first heard that, I just thought, okay, so long term he's going to be a number 8 for Arsenal, but for now, with Partey injured, etc., and obviously we haven't got a Xhaka replacement, he's just playing that like number 6 role and then letting Havertz play there. But actually, the more I think about it, he probably is a long-term number 6 for Arsenal, but he's just training the number 8 position so he can have skills in this type of area. Because this is where Xhaka would pop up in these type of moments. We'd be playing that number 8 position.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense in that sense. And then, of course, this is the goal. So short corners executed well. Yeah, this is a really good point because 2 things. First, Everton have a lot of height, and they probably would want set pieces and corners.
Yeah.
Another thing was not just the short corners, the time we were taking on the corners as well. I'm not gonna flip flop. I was thinking, what are we doing? Like, hurry up! We're drawing 0-0, and we're just waiting on corners. We're wasting time. I was like, what's going on? But it was kind of like lulling them into a false sense of security, slow them down to speed them up again. It's that change of momentum, it's that change of speed that really caught them off guard.
No, you're exactly right here. And I think what it was, we put 4 technical players. We had Saka, we had Trossard, we had Odegaard, and we had Fabio Vieira influencing the link up for the goal here. And it's when you're able to disrupt the shape, you create space, of course. And when you have technical players like the 4 I've just mentioned, it makes it so much easier to break them down because they're able to just use a bit of pauser, a bit of wait for someone to just move, wait for someone to change, and then attack. And that's what we did with Saka. We waited. Odegaard waited for Saka to run, and it was straight into him, cut back. And I mean, the chance was a chance. You'll see it on the next slide. And he opened his body just so well, like 0.09 XG chance here. And yeah, it's just the pace that the ball comes at him. He's able to use his weaker foot to open his body up, and it's just instinct at that point. You're just going to have to say, again, I said him and Trossard and Fabio Vieira are our most, I would say, final third influential players. And I think this is exactly what it is. It's the instinct.
100%. I mean, when I looked at this game and looked at the final result and the way we scored that goal, that is what I'm looking at. Because when I see Man City and Arsenal, I think if you looked at this match and you took away the scoreline and just saw like the game itself, you would think this is a Man City performance. The domination in the middle of the park was second to none to Man City. We had the ball, we had them in transition, everything was perfect. The difference Man City have over Arsenal right now, I believe, and Trossard bridged the gap for this game, was the mentality Man City have to find a way to get a winner. Even 1-0 down to a good West Ham side, they find a way to win that game 3-1 convincingly. And the second thing is having that clinicality in front of goal, not needing a tap in or a square pass to score the goal, just being able to pull a blinder out of nowhere. Whether it was Julian Alvarez scoring for Man City against Newcastle, whether it was the Rodri strike against Sheffield United when they won 2-1. Man City have not been winning a lot of games this season by 3, 4, 5 goals, but they have found a way to execute in big moments and key players stepping up and scoring goals that key players and world-class players are only capable of scoring. I thought Trossard here on a weak-footed strike, this was the difference between this being a 0-0 and a massive 1-0 victory for Arsenal.
Yeah, so true, yeah.
And speaking of Trossard, man the match you've given him to, and look, I can't complain one bit. Leandro Trossard deserved man the match. So talk us through the stats here.
I mean, look, he came on 85% pass accuracy. Just shows, he's got that balance of, risk and reward, able to take it. 37 touches, to be fair, is quite good for a sub that came on in the, late first half. So he's taking his chances. Key passes, I can't tell you which ones they were, but 2 key passes is great to come on. Some players don't even go by a game without having a key pass. So 4 ground duels won. He's able to, balance going forward, coming back. And that's what you were mentioning, picking the ball up in our own half and retrieving and recycling play. When Everton get the ball back, he's able to come back, dispossess, and recycle. And, he deservedly got the goal.
100%. And a special shout out as well to Fabio Vieira, who I thought was absolutely fantastic. I think we're going to segue that into a little bit of a discussion regarding Fabio Vieira before we get into the goalkeeper discussion. So Fabio Vieira in this game was really good in my opinion. And I've heard some Arsenal fans say that they want Trossard to start the next game. I think he will start the next game inevitably because of Gabriel Martinelli's injury. My question is now, does Fabio Vieira start this next game, or does he go to Havertz, or does he then go into the Jorginho and then push Declan Rice forward? Now, the game I'm talking about is not the PSV game in midweek. I'm talking about, of course, the North London derby. Me personally, I would stick with Fabio Vieira in there against Tottenham. Now, many might say that's a risk, and Jorginho might have the experience, but I think when you're playing at home and you've got the likes of Vieira and Ødegaard on the ball, I think Tottenham will spend more time worrying about them than actually going forwards, and I think sometimes attack's the best form of defense. So I would stick with the same team today that played against Tottenham, apart from having Jesus instead of Nketiah. What would you do for the North London derby?
I agree. I think for the North London derby, we stick with what we have best. And of course, Jesus, for me, Jesus would go in for Nketiah. I think Jesus won't play the full 90 based on probably match fitness. That's probably why we didn't see him play the start against Everton. So even a 60 minutes, 70 minutes for Jesus is really crucial for us to come on and influence play on the wings, link up play between Trossard and Jesus. I think even if he gets minutes against PSV, it'll be good for him to get some, minutes under his belt to build up for the game. But I wouldn't change. I would keep, Fabio Vieira in. He's on form. You want to boost him up the same way that people kept, Arteta kept Havertz in the first 3 games of the season. We need to keep Vieira in. And I think this is a game for him because I think there will be space between the defenders that Tottenham operate with. I think there will be space, and I think that space will be well exploited, especially at home when the crowd is up for it. That confidence will have Tottenham up against it.
100%. I can't wait to review that game after because I think we've got good potential in that game. Look, I've watched a lot of Spurs games this season. I've been a massive fan of Ange Postecoglou, not just what he's done on the pitch, but off the pitch as well, the way he holds himself. But the way he's playing football at Tottenham right now, it's got a very much a risk and reward scheme. And Spurs have played some good teams. Don't get me wrong. Manchester United are a good counter-attacking team. They blew them apart 2-0. But I do think that if you do get caught, Spurs, they could be in for a long day and we could find a lot of space. And if you have the likes of Vieira and Ødegaard, who have got the quality to execute those final balls, we've got a good chance of beating Spurs on Sunday. Not just beating them, a good chance of wiping the floor with Tottenham on Sunday. I really do believe so, despite their good start. Speaking of team selection, there's one elephant in the room I'd like to say, or two, depending on what side you're on. David Raya or Aaron Ramsdale debate. So this was flashed up during just before kickoff. The stat comparison between Ramsdale and Raya. Talk us through these stats, Rami, and what you see from this.
Okay, I mean, fundamentally, we have two great goalkeepers. I think we have to start off with that. I think this is the best selection of keepers in the league. Like, you have two great qualities. I think, okay, we have both played similar amount of games, conceded similar amount of goals. Of course, Raya at Brentford is more prone to concede more goals when they're up against it. But clean sheets, again, Raya has done well to keep 12 against Ramsdale's 15. I think that is not the issue here. I think the XG prevented. So I think that's what I felt like last season, and even open with this season, was that there were chances that were created that I felt like Ramsdale could have done better. And I think we said that against Man United, where Ramsdale could have had a stronger hand to the Rashford shot, where Ramsdale could have put himself in a better position when Fulham scored their opening goal at home. There are chances like that where I feel like Ramsdale maybe lacks the intelligence or the awareness in a game to put himself. And I feel like Raya carries that bit of composure and he's able to understand that a bit better. So I think the difference in actually prevented is nearly 10 goals, and that's quite big. The save percentages, again, Raya, I remember doing a piece earlier on in pre-season when I first saw the links. The difference in Ramsdale and Raya was that Raya was better at saving shots, not just at him, where both keepers have been great, but where it's in the corners. I think lower corners, Raya was much better at getting a hand to it than Ramsdale was. And yeah, and I think the errors as well. Ramsdale clearly has been making more errors, especially in the back end of last season, where we, were in the title run. And I felt like against Southampton in those last 3 home games that we had, errors were made. And I feel like Raya would not maybe make those mistakes. But I think a stat that doesn't want to just, my last point, a stat that doesn't want to, that didn't show up here, was Raya's ability to collect crosses. The difference between these two keepers is there is not just a height difference, not much, but his composure in carrying crosses. He did that very, very well for Brentford, where he would claim the cross and then it was a long ball straight into Ivan Toney, and he did that really, really well. And I feel like if we do get Ivan Toney in the summer, we have a cheat code right there.
Yeah, 100% in fact. And I saw a lot of backlash, and I'm sure you would have seen the same on Twitter, or X as it's now called, and all that regarding Ramsdale getting dropped. I'm not against it one bit. Look, I'm a massive fan of Ramsdale. When we were first linked to David Raya, I remember saying that it was perplexing, given that Ramsdale's been fantastic, one of the best signings Arteta has made at Arsenal Football Club. But if this man wants David Raya to play, and having seen the stats and obviously watched Brentford in big games last season, I understand David Raya starting. Now, in the Wednesday game, against PSV, I do expect Ramsdale to start. One, because he's going to need to rotate the goalkeepers. You can't have Ramsdale sitting on the bench. And also, I think it's fair for Ramsdale to start that game, given that he was the goalkeeper that got us to Champions League football. So it's only fair that he starts in the Champions League game, in my opinion. That I think that rewards him well. But I think it's really interesting what happens in North London derby, because I do expect, and you said the same thing, Arteta to stick and go with Raya for the North London derby as well, which will be a massive, massive kick in the teeth to Ramsdale, given that at the start of the season he would have been expected to be the number 1 goalkeeper for Arsenal for basically the whole season.
Yeah, I just feel like Raya adds that bit more risk-free reward. I felt like Ramsdale towards the back end of last season wasn't playing the balls that he was playing when he first joined, and those were the diagonal balls, the pings straight into into our fullbacks or into our wingers. I didn't see it as much. I felt like there were more long balls, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes with Raya.
Perfect. I want to thank everyone that's tuned in today for this Everton 0 Arsenal 1 tactical analysis. We've got another very special tactical analysis coming in midweek, I believe, after Arsenal versus PSV. The start of the Champions League is back at the carpet. And of course, the North London derby tactical analysis as well. As always, in the meantime, make sure you do check out the Stats Optic, Rami on there. I've got all his links posted in the description, including his Twitter and his Instagram. His Twitter especially has been posting really good single player analysis, including their XG attempts, created chances. I've been looking at them for a host of leagues, including the Arsenal matches as well. So make sure you guys check that out. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section on what you took from the Everton 0 Arsenal 1 result. I've been Wife, and I hope to see you guys all in my next video. Take care.